Welcome to NGAdvocate podcast number 21, I believe. Yep, that's it. I'm here with Viral. Uh, we're going to go over mostly campaign contributions and the upcoming election during this cycle. Uh, it's funny how some people are who donates to certain people. You can tell who the swamp is and who it ain't, and I've noticed on these campaign contributions, some people donate to every candidate just so they can say, to try to be fair about it. So, uh, have you noticed anything kind of off the wall with any of these contributions, Vera?
Yeah, there's a lot of swamp money, or quote unquote, to the you know, um, likely suspects that we expected to have swamp money behind them. So nothing
Yeah.
nothing out of the norm.
No, not for small towns. But the funny thing is like we talked about with Shiv and others, Gainesville's in that transition period going from a small town to a more of an urban city. And you can see the swamp trying their damnedest to hold on to what they have. I mean, they're sending out cease and desist letters. They're trying to keep the news organizations like WDUN and the Times from reporting on things. I mean, it's funny how, and that ain't how it goes. I just had a questionnaire from the Times sent to me yesterday because I subscribed to it. And they asked me what in the world they needed to do different. And I went into a couple of paragraph little thing explaining to them that they've got to stop that crap. If they want to gain the trust of the listener, of the,
Right.
The readers, enough's enough. People, I know several people that sent them good stories that they could report on, and because it's on certain people, they're just not going to report on it. And I know several cases where I know that the writers have actually written articles that have been squashed at the last minute from being published. One even hit the airway, hit the website, and was gone like in 15 minutes. It had to be pulled.
Wow.
And and that's just not right.
Well, hopefully we grow this podcast large enough for a larger audience locally, and then.
Oh yeah, well, we're getting there.
Out.
We are getting there. Our views go up every week, and that you got to start somewhere. And it's growing and growing. And I'm even getting stopped in the grocery store sometimes, and people thanking me and you both for what we're doing. It's happened to 2 or 3 times already, and I get messages and stuff. I mean, and a lot of it's from people that don't want their name out there because, they don't want to know that, because, you know how this town works still, and it shouldn't be that way, but it is. And a couple of things, I know a lot of people brought it up. I did. Let's go over from the last meeting. Board of Education, not the Board of Education, the Board of Commissioners had. We were all confused about the sublease. Why in the world was the county having to approve stuff being done at Sunrise Cove? The big Cove Marina down in South Hall.
Right.
I was thinking, why in the world is the county? That's not a public park. They don't run the boat ramps or anything down there. What in the world's Hall County got to do? I thought that was Army Corps Engineer. And you did some digging and found out some good information.
Yeah, I wasn't really digging. It's just a more of a question. When I met with Brett And yeah, essentially he was kind of explaining to me how the parks department has leases and joint partnerships with the Corps of Engineer for some of these places. So Sunrise Cove just happens to be one of them, where Hall County has the first lease, and then subleases it back out to um, Sunrise Cove. So from my understanding, I believe Hall County pays $0 for that lease from the Corps of Engineers, and they have full commercial usage rights and whatnot, obviously within limitations of whatever the lease agreement is, but they have much more leeway as far as what they can and can't do at a particular location, as long as they are fully leasing it and running it. For parks that are joint managed, they don't have as much control. So with Sunrise Cove, that sublease is essentially just pure profit for Hall County Parks and Rec, or I should say Parks and Leisure. But yeah, essentially Sunrise Cove pays them uh, commissions and money to kind of operate their business on that at that park or at that Corps Engineer property. And from time to time, the Parks and Leisure Department has to do some renovations or additions and whatnot for Sunrise. So yeah, it doesn't sound right when we're looking at it without all the details behind it, as far as, hey, why are the taxpayers footing the bill for this private entity's renovations and stuff? You dig into it a little bit further, you find out. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you saw that there was no funding requested, right? There was no
Yeah, no.
dollars requested. Yeah, so essentially, I think they still have to, because it's the Corps is involved in this. I believe they have to get it approved by the county
Yeah,
to
it
do
took
any
a
kind of major
year.
repairs.
They put this request in like last year. It took the
Yeah.
Corps a year to approve it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Brett was talking to me about. Is just it takes time. Like, if we want to do anything, it's not because we don't want to do it. It's just because we have to get approvals in place. So there's a whole chain of command that has to go through all the way up to DC and then back down the chain of command before it gets approved and whatnot. And so essentially the Corps isn't worried about day-to-day stuff for at a local community level at a single park or at multiple parks in a given area. They're more of a federal, national public works type entity.
Right.
So they're worried about building dams and other bigger lakes and whatever else. So anytime they need to do something, add something, change anything with the lease, or do any kind of major improvements or anything like that, it goes from the local office to a regional office to a southeastern territory office to DC, and then it has to work its way back down from DC to the southeast region, back to the regional office, back to the local district office, and then they get it back. So just that chain of command and the bureaucracy takes a lot longer than necessary. But unfortunately, it's not 100% to be blamed on our Parks and Rec department. And I think Brett's a great guy to be in this position that he's in. He's understanding of the fact that taxpayers pay his salary and the salaries of his of the employees under him too.
Right.
And he understands that communications top priority. If we're not communicating with the community as far as what's going on, then we have no one to blame but ourselves when people get upset about what we're doing.
Yeah.
So a good example was he was telling me is they were doing some work off of Whitehall Road, and I think this is where Jody probably got involved with him. And some of the neighbors were complaining about the construction guys digging up some dirt, or
They were leaving buckets of trash everywhere. The trash was in buckets and stuff, but
but they didn't notify what that was for. They just came out there one day and started digging up stuff and didn't have a single clue. And so he went out there and he met with them, and he met with some of the neighbors, I believe, on Whitehall Road, and kind of explained to them what's going on. This is what's this is how long it's going to take approximately. Said, had a lady that was super upset, but with the whole thing at the beginning, and by the end of it, she was baking cookies for the workers that were out there. So it's a night and day difference when you're able to put a face to a department and to a project and really have good communication with the local community, and the neighbors that are kind of being affected by the construction and whatnot. At least they have an understanding of, okay, this is what they're doing, this is what they're doing it for, and this should be done hopefully by then. And as long as the workers are respectful and not leaving trash and stuff behind and whatnot, I think that's great.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the confusion with that came from is it was right when a big subdivision was about to be approved, and they thought they had jumped the gun on building the subdivision.
Right.
The proper approval, and they were leaving trash everywhere. And the thing is back to all this confusion is every bit of this could have been avoided with us having to dig and ask questions if the commission would have just been up front and been more transparent, saying all they had to do is make a couple of statements at the meeting saying, hey, the reason Sunrise Cove is on this is because we do this and we do that, and Sunrise pays us to, and then it turns out Sunrise Cove subleases to other people, so they're making their money back too. So
I would assume they're going to be subleasing it back to different vendors too. Yeah.
So
they're right off the property.
So the money they pay the county is really not coming out of Sunrise Cove's pocket because they're subleasing it to other tenants.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not sure on the exact details of the lease terms and whatnot, but I believe Sunrise pays like X amount of commission to the on sales and the leases of the docks and whatnot. So I think all in all, with that being said, it's a win-win for the Parks and Rec department, because essentially they make money to kind of keep their, it's I don't know if it would be considered a zero-sum kind of business at that point, but essentially what Brett is trying to do is be net positive for the county, for each of these leases, to where the money that's coming in is also covering our expenses at other locations. And so we're not having to ask for increases in tax or increase a portion that we're getting from taxes, or from SPLOST or anything like that. And I believe in this last SPLOST that passed, they don't have any big improvements or anything like that in there. I think that one's strictly for the courthouse, if I'm not mistaken.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, there had some road improvements and stuff, but it was mainly.
Yeah, because he was saying something along the lines of, we got to wait until 6 years now to ask for any additional SPLOST money, to for any other renovations at any of the other facilities. And that's the crazy thing is, the Parks and Leisure Department, I was telling him that they need to do a better job of marketing some of these facilities. Yeah, because they are for rent, and I didn't know that they were available for rent. There's like a cabin and retreat area at River Forks Park. There's a couple of things at Laurel Park. There's a few things all around the place, and then the community centers around the county too, that people can lease privately. And a lot of people don't necessarily know that, because in the day of fate, Facebook, if we're not marketing it and publicizing it on there, it's kind of hard to understand that, oh, I can rent this gazebo, or I can rent this building from the government, and it's great rates. Like the rates are really good. So I think more people need to take advantage of that.
Right. And there's people don't understand that all these community centers like North Hall, East Hall, Mulberry, they have meeting rooms that people can rent out rather cheaply too. It's like $100 for the whole day, or 125 or something.
Yes.
I mean, it's very affordable. I mean, and the city has a lot of people use the Civic Center, but they have a lot of restrictions where you can't bring in your own vendors, and you can't. But the county, it's pretty much, you rent the facility, you can bring in who you want as a caterer or whatever,
Yeah.
And they don't take a commission of it like the city does. Like if for that nonpartisan thing, if we'd have brought in an outside caterer, the city would have got a cut of it, which is fair. You're using their facilities and their kitchen possibly and all that, but they don't need the county like you said, they don't promote their stuff really well at all.
Yeah, no, they don't. And I think it's something that they're working on though.
And another good thing is lost in all this is, and the paper reported it, but the county or the board of commissioners hadn't said anything. The Corps just gave the county control over 11 more day use parks and camping sites around the lake.
Yeah. So they're taking over effective on the 18th. So I guess Sunday. Yeah, Sunday or Monday. The Hall County Parks and Leisure Department is going to be responsible for 11 different parks. Not all of them are 100% Hall County run though. So there's some of them are going to be joint managed. Yeah. And then some of them are like the county's essentially leasing it and going to take over day-to-day operations and have a lot more flexibility as to
what they
being able to do like commercial activity over there and give business permits for other people, private businesses to run their operations and stuff. I know a good example right now that of a small business guy is kind of going through is the Jason Burton from Burton Outdoor Adventures. He posted something on Facebook about he just got a last minute notice that there's no commercial activity allowed at any of the parks by the Corps. And this is, right in the start of his season, essentially, for kayak rentals and paddle boards and lessons and whatever else that you might do. So it's a slap in the face for him, and that's his livelihood that they're essentially attacking at that point, which is, in my opinion, it's not fair. If you're going to do something like that, you got to give notice prior to the season starting, because people have their livelihoods attached to this entire season.
Right.
But yeah, he's they're still kind of waiting for clarification on that, and again, it's going to have to run through the bureaucracy and up the chain of command with the Corps. So he's kind of in limbo as far as what he can do, what he can't do, and that's unfortunate on his end. And it's just another shit stain, if you will, on our government and the BS policies.
That's just craziness. I mean, and I get it. They don't want big corporations coming in and taking over the parks, but at the same time, you got to use common sense.
Right.
I mean,
and so I asked Brett about the whole situation with Parks Marina too. So like Port Royale and a lot of these other marinas. So they're all Corps property. They're just leased. They just lease them. Some of them are leased through Hall County or through Forsyth County or through Dawson County. But they're all core property.
Right.
None of them are owned outright. They just lease them. They have long-term leases, and that's what it is. That's it.
Right.
Which was like crazy to me, because I was like, these guys, because these folks invest a lot of money into these, building out the docks and the infrastructure to be able to support their businesses and stuff, and it's all on a lease, which is, the federal government decides, hey, we don't want any of this anymore. What are y'all gonna do?
Is that, and they won't get their money back or anything, Yeah, it's
Exactly.
crazy. I think anything below 1082 or something like that is core.
Yeah.
The core controls, because they just came through here near our house about it's 2 or 3 years ago now, and remarked all the trees that was core property, and they moved it from what it was before. And several people lost a lot of land that they thought that they had owned for decades. And it ends up that the Corps just comes in and says, oh, it was a mistake before. That don't help them none. I mean, what if they built structures and stuff on that, that they thought was their land and had it approved, and several people had to move buildings like storage sheds and stuff that they kept for their boat houses and everything. And it was just a big to do, but it is what it is. And
Plus the federal government being a bully for you. That's
yeah,
at the end of
that's
the day.
exactly what it is. I mean, one guy that owns Whitmire Plumbing, he's got that big house right past the canoe and kayak center. They come in and took a whole swath of his land, and he fought it in court and everything and lost, and it ends up that's where they put a lot of the parking and stuff for the new event center that they built out there. That they built on the other side of the road. I mean, why didn't they just come out and say that instead of redoing the core lines or whatever? Just be upfront and honest. We want to take this land because we're going to build something on it.
Yeah, that I don't think that would have went over too well with the public, but that's dirty by the federal government.
Yep, and that was it. And then the last thing I want to get into when we get in this campaign stuff is this goes back 25 years now. The county, when they closed Allen Creek landfill, they capped it off. They shut it down in 97. The public couldn't dump there, but the county still dumped there for a couple of years while they closed down operations, and they capped it off, but they didn't get the EPA or other government agencies to come in and sign off on it. And the county found out just not long ago that they are in violation and having to pay $82,000 and some change in fines, like $82,500 or something. It's on the agenda. And then they've got to go in and pay for any core samples that the government wants, so they can be sure that, everything that's in the landfill's under the guidelines. And, and I know it's not this commission's fault, but I mean, that's just another thing that you shouldn't have to worry about. You should understand that the past commissions have taken care of that stuff. And who would even think to go back and check on something like that 25 years later?
I'm trying to see if I can't find. Yeah, there it is. Approve a single source purchase of Allen Creek. Here, let me share this on the screen. So yeah, it's this one right here. Yeah, $82,100.
Yeah, 82. Yeah, 82.1. I mean, it's craziness. I mean, that's just expenses that you're not expecting. You know, it's just how did it take 25 years for the feds to decide that it wasn't in compliance? And people wonder how there's so much government waste and fraud and everything when the government takes 25.
Here's the portion of it though. Let me see. So it says facts and the issues. Georgia EPD and Hall County discovered that the Allen Creek landfill has not been officially closed by the Georgia Environmental Protection Division. Burns and McDonald has been working with GA, EPD, and Hall County to develop corrective action plan to complete the official closure process.
That's crazy, ain't it?
So that's coming out of the solid waste fund, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
glad
that's
they
I'm
should
glad they
have
found it.
plenty. They raised dump fees a couple of years ago to where it's outrageous.
Yeah.
But that solid waste, well, hell, it's like 60 something dollars a ton to dump uh stuff now. I mean, that's crazy. If you're going from like $27 to $67. I mean, you can't even afford to go out there as an individual, you know. But yeah, that was I don't know where that's going to lead, how many core samples they're going to have to get. It's not really detailed in there, but you know, that's just stuff that shouldn't happen, you know. So, all right. Well, we found another website, another link to where we can get some of the.
Well, hold on before you move on to this. So they're getting this SPLOST money for the courthouse, but it looks like they're still spending 141,000 on courtroom lighting conversion
Yeah,
phase
why in the
2.
world are they changing out the courtroom lighting? Only on the second floor or something? Or on the first floor, and the second floor is not going to be.
That's crazy to me though. Like if you're already planning on doing this, why are we spending hundreds of thousands of dollars? So facts and let me. I don't know how to just present something else. Let's do that. There we go. So it says Hall County has been converting lighting throughout the Hall County Courthouse in phases. This purchase will be for the first floor only. That's crazy. $141,000 to change out lighting in a courthouse that is supposedly too small now.
Yeah.
The source of funds, SPLOST 8. If I can read my Roman numerals correctly, I think that's 8. So yeah, that's crazy, man. Why are we spending so much money on a building that we're not potentially going to be using in a few years?
Exactly. If they build out at Brownsbridge Road, potentially in 2 years.
Yeah, that's just crazy to me.
Well, that right there tells you that they're going to be in that building 5, 6, 7 years because they're probably going to be trying to build downtown.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing that I wanted to touch on too before we get into the campaign.
What if there's any additional things that kind of stick out as far as what I got 189,000 going towards contract for or annual contract for 911 or 911 computer aided dispatch services. There's one right here for the realignment of White Sulphur Road Phase 2 Public Works Utilities. for guardrail removal and insulation, additional under drain pipe installation, sanitary sewer, force main relocation, $431,000 to realign that for the again, it's kind of like the part of the port, I would assume.
Yeah, that's out there with at the inland port. But what's funny is they're not doing anything to that intersection with White Sulphur, Crescent Drive, and Pine Valley. Why don't they just take over Crescent Drive and run White Sulphur all the way out?
Right.
Turn it into Crescent Drive and run it into Jesse Jewell out there, instead of having everybody go over that big 2 deep S curve right there over the railroad tracks.
So I see this. Taxpayers are paying $277,000 for guaranteed performance and maintenance agreement for streets, stormwater management facilities, and sidewalks in Grant Harbor Estates subdivision in Commission District 2.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Grant Harbor Estates is out. Some of them new housing they built out on White Sulphur, I believe. I'm not sure what the subdivision is named. It's on Crescent. But they just built townhomes and all that. It's on Crescent. It's right there next to the railroad tracks.
But that District 2, I don't think that falls into District 2 though.
No, that's District 3.
Yeah, so this is somewhere in like West Hall area or down Browns Bridge, I would assume. No, that's an interesting one to kind of look into, because why is the county paying for street stormwater management and sidewalk maintenance in a subdivision instead of a HOA potentially, you know?
Yeah, it's that's just crazy how why are we even maintaining that mess?
All right, anyways. Yeah, let's get into the whatchamacallit,
the campaign finances. And one thing I want to mention about the courthouse before we get into that is, I've talked to several people that's heard that it's pretty much the courthouse is a done deal on the square. They've already, Jeff Stowe and a few of them's already had meetings with all the business owners, and some of them told them to pound sand. They're going to sue them, and so they're going to turn this into build a courthouse out at Browns Ridge Road and put a few restaurants in it to pacify the judges and the clerk of courts and the jury people so they have something to eat. Or let's fight over this land for 5 or 6 years and pay 2 times what it's worth and build a courthouse. It's going to take 10 years to get open, probably.
Yeah, and by then it'll probably be too small.
Yeah, already. I mean, yeah, somebody will build something bigger and better, and they'll want to outdo it, And we all know that's a crock of crap, because they went from building a $350 million courthouse to now they can do it for $125 and wanting to have to purchase land on the square. Come on, man, at least be honest with us.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they're having all these UDC meetings that are coming up, Universal Development Code, and they packed all the public meetings into a 1 week period in early June 2nd through the 9th. Why are they rushing? They've already got a moratorium for 6 months, and it was extended for another 6. That's a year. You don't have a county manager.
Well, because I think they kind of didn't have a lot, with the whole planning commission fiasco. They kind of wasted a lot of that first 6 months, and so I think they're like
planning commission, yeah,
because they didn't do any of the looking at the UDC, you're doing kind of revisions or really anything for those first 6 months of the moratorium. And so now it's like, hey, a lot of these developers are getting pissed because you're holding up work because you guys can't get your ducks in a row. So let's try to get this done in this next 6 months. And it's one of the reasons you got to kind of try to pack everything into one and kind of throw the public the bone that they were asking for, which is our involvement into it.
Right. And they pack it into the 1st of June when they know a lot of people are going to be on vacations.
Yeah.
And the kids are playing travel ball or something, because in reality, you only have 6 weeks in the summer now between spring and fall semesters in school, so they got to pack everything. You don't have a county attorney. You possibly could have new commission members. Why not wait till January? Tell those builders to pound sand. They're the ones that's benefited from the planning commission anyway.
Right.
They've already had their pockets greased. Tell them they can wait 6 more months.
Yeah.
And next week I do want to bring up that Sardis Road. We're going to dig into it too, that Sardis Road thing with all the 300 and something or 400 RV slots and boat slips going out on Dawsonville Highway. It's back with a new owner, Billy Powell.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And Bradley Dunkel, who is on the planning commission, is going to be presenting it to the board of commissioners.
Yeah.
I mean,
funny how that works.
That's kind of odd. All right. Well, who do you want to pull up first on the campaign?
Just start at the top, work our way down.
We finally got Mark Turner's. It was messed up on the state one, and we got a local link to where we can hopefully pull it up. When we clicked on Mark Turner's, it always pulled up Shannon Davidson's.
It still does on there.
Yeah, but we got a new county link. I'm hoping that when we pull it up, that it'll be able to have Mark Turner's. And I posted a few of these on the website on Facebook last night. And there's been a lot of interesting comments on some of them.
I still can't really figure this out. I guess I can't read sloppy cursive. Sorry.
Yeah, she didn't write real good. Most people type theirs. She just hand wrote hers.
Yeah.
See, you get here, the Bagels, that's odd. Bagels are uber rich. They only gave 500. And then, but you look at Kathy Cooper, if you just go through there, she's got donations from all over the state.
Mm-hmm.
From Savannah to Macon to Columbus to Augusta. And
the
ones in North Georgia don't really surprise me, because if you go to her property disclosures where they have to disclose all the real estate, they've got 13 properties and cattle farms all over North Georgia. They probably got $2 or $3 million just in land all over North Georgia. They got it in.
You got Johns Creek over here, though. So why is somebody from Johns Creek?
And I think a couple of those that if you Google them, they're tied to places like Cook Construction and other.
Right. Yeah. Atlanta, Johns Creek. And this one up here was from, I'm assuming that says Atlanta. I'm not 100%. That says Atlanta, and then Alpharetta. But you got some big money coming in from these places, though, too. It's like $1,800 in it from somebody in Alpharetta, $750 from Atlanta, $750 from Johns Creek. Sewanee.
Yeah.
$1,000 from Sewanee.
And what's that company? 55 what? It was only 250, and if you scroll on down, You see stuff like from NASCAR. Why in the hell's NASCAR donating to Kathy?
I guess like the motor speedway, right? That's in her district.
Yeah. There's a Josh McGrown or whoever from Flowery Branch, $2,500. At least that's local.
There's another one. Sewanee. And it's not like these are like, you know, close by cities. These are good little 15-20 minute drive away.
Right. They have nothing to do with District 3 unless they're planning on hoping to get something built here.
Right.
Or they have ties to construction companies or real estate companies that are selling land here or developing here.
And so a lot of these also is just like they're hard to read, and I feel like that's on purpose because you don't want to type them out to where your donors are like so easy to, I guess, find and figure out who's actually donating to you.
Right. It's funny, the $200 one, she's got perfect handwriting on. See, what's that? Seabelt? Sunbelt?
Yeah, it looks like Sunbelt.
Augusta, Georgia? What in the world? There's a Richard Higgins.
$1,000 from Richard Higgins.
Yeah, they're cousins from what I understand. So, I mean,
Good old Richard Higgins.
There's NASCAR. And that Kevin King, he's on there a couple of times. He's tied to development. And I think the amended ones where she scratched out a couple of them.
Yeah, this is the amended one.
See, and there's Carol Daniels.
Yep. William Bagwell. I think this is the one that she scratched out, maybe.
Yeah, she scratched out like 2 of them, I think. And I don't know if it's got the return donations, and that's her expenditure. She spent a ton. Somebody asked a question in one of the posts. Let me pull it up. Maybe we can find it. It was a big expense on Kathy Cooper's, like $51,000 under expenditures. I can't find the post right now. Do you see anything like that on her?
No, I think that was the total that somebody pointed out. I think with the total that she spent so far on her campaign.
Right.
So yeah, if you maybe if you add all of it together, it comes out to.
It says Joe Jackson. He posted this. What is this? It says transaction details. The purpose: independent expenditure supporting or opposing others. Date 5/1/2026. Payee was Right Strategies LLC, $47,353. It looks like she paid that much from what he posted was to a campaign strategist or something. I don't know if it's in anything we've got or not. He just asked it up under Kathy Cooper's thing. I mean, that's crazy if she paid that much for a campaign strategist. It doesn't show that on the report we got. But yeah,
is there a reason Tyler or Corey's isn't on here?
They're accepting under, it's on the local one, most likely, that we just got the link for. I had it before and couldn't find it.
Wait, so this is just if you've accepted more than X amount of dollars?
2,500. See, Susan and Steve Gailey and a couple other candidates put in exemptions because they don't plan on raising more than $2,500.
Wow, that's awesome. So like if you show up on here, essentially you're part of the swamp. Yeah, if you have to file one of these, that's crazy. Mark Fall's on here too, though. That's surprising to me. Let me pull his up. Get into his. So Mark Fall, it looks like he just did just slightly above 2,500 threshold, so he's gonna have to report it.
Yeah, I'm looking on the local one. See, and I think Corey and the others and Tyler, they said in January they were not going to raise campaign funds.
Mm-hmm.
So they were kind of exempt from having to report.
Well, so it looks like Mark didn't raise any money. He just spent more than $2,500.
Right. So he had to report because he had more expenditures.
Yeah. So I take that back. If you're on there, you're not necessarily part of the swamp.
Yeah, here's Corey Anderson.
So it's not much, you know, there's no private money or development money going to Mark Fall, which is great to see.
Yeah, he's I think he's got his own money and he's financing it himself for the most part. He seems to be a good dude. You know, I don't have any issues with him. I mean, you know,
Shannon Davidson. Let's see, what do we got? So far, he has spent $30,259.47 for this election campaign.
right. That's
All
crazy.
these names. I'm glad that he did this. You know, it's not chicken scratch, so you can actually read it, but the font is super small. So I'm having to zoom in quite a bit. I'm already at 175, so 200% zoom in just to be able to read it properly.
Right.
All right, let's go into this. So you got
What is this?
Chestatee Industrial Contractor LLC. This is Shannon Davidson.
Yeah, Shannon Davidson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, somebody had sent me a message. I was reading it to be sure. My messenger hadn't went off any until we started the podcast, and then now it's. I don't know who the Barber Hoffmans are. They're on here. I think a couple of family members gave or something.
Yeah.
When looking over it,
they're all over Facebook defending him too. So
yeah. Jim Hardman. He's a local attorney.
Yep, $1,000.
Yeah, Josh Barrett, $1,000.
Funeral home, Little Davenport, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Hawk Investments, they are a development company.
So big development money coming in.
Yeah.
Property management coming.
Community management, $500.
McCall Properties, $1,000.
That was shocking. I mean, Chris is a good dude. He's a couple of years younger than me. He went to North Hall together.
There's another one over
The Barber Hoffmans, yeah.
Kane Equipment.
$750. Yeah, that's shocking.
There's that Larry Glover person again for $1,000.
Yeah.
And he also donated to Kathy.
Right. And I don't think that's the last time we see his name either. Oh, that Robert Santee, he's Cook Construction. I Googled that.
Yeah.
He's I don't know if he's a part owner, but he's like president or CEO, runs the office they have in Cumming, Georgia.
Gotcha.
According to his LinkedIn profile. And I think that's it. He had a lot of expenditures.
A lot of the direct mail sign. So the direct mail that was like mostly filled with lies.
Yeah.
Direct mail. Oh, that's funny.
I never got any of his stuff. He only targeted certain areas, I think.
Yeah.
It just baffles me how he wants to take credit for that. I mean, we got to give him credit for going to David Gibbs because he had to. He didn't have no choice. Jody was fixing to file a lawsuit, and they was fixing to find out anyway.
Web hosting, GoDaddy, event tickets, digital advertising, texting service, event supplies, credit card merchant fees.
I'm wondering if he distributed, if that was for the event he had last week with all the.
So yeah, nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary. But this is, like you said, this is the most recent contributions, right? So like
Yeah.
the prior ones where it was the Ryle brothers and a couple of other
Right. Yeah, that was the
things aren't
Riles
showing up
brothers.
on here.
Yeah, that was the one from last fall. They had to file one in January for the last quarter of 2025.
I gotcha. Yeah, so like that is a little bit more interesting, as more of the, you know, developers and construction companies kind of show up a little bit more right here.
Yeah, I'm looking for the old one. I've got it somewhere where it had all that. But it's but he's swamped out. He went from trying to work with Steve, and when Stan Hunt dropped out,
He was
Shannon
he
turned
was
to
a
the dark
taker. Yeah,
side.
he was a
Shannon,
taker.
huh?
I think Stan dropped out when they had a replacement for him, essentially, potentially
Pretty
in
much.
Shannon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had talked Shannon into doing this stuff, and we got.
So you got John Batchelor. Let me get into his.
His is pretty straightforward from what I understand. When I remember, it's mostly family members.
Yeah.
So I mean, we can tell he's on the up and up. You know,
13 pages. That'll do it. So far, let's see, total expenditures, $8,800.
all right. Yeah, I've got the newest Mark Turner out here.
Ben
Yeah,
Hawkins, dentist.
John Bachelor's. I think most his is his family. You know,
Yeah,
it was
yeah, looks like it. Big
family and
donations.
friends.
Yeah, big donations from Judy and Ronnie Bachelor right there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that he's got but like 6 or 7, maybe 8.
Yeah,
Total.
not much.
And the rest of his stuff on that page is just he gave it, you know, like most candidates give themselves a loan just so they can start up the campaign and then the expenditures.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Nothing crazy on here.
Yeah, I
Not a
mean,
lot of
there's no
not a lot of
real
lawyers.
on that one.
That's the thing. Not a lot of defense attorneys on here, which
Yeah,
is telling.
but you look at the Inez Grant one, boy. Whew.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're about to get into that.
And she put out them 2 videos yesterday, and I think that going to hurt her more than it helps her. They're just not very good.
Well, she's reading off of a script.
Yeah,
She's not even trying to hide that she's not reading off of a script.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't come off well. And it's not a knock on her. It's just whoever did the, you know.
Here we go. 24 pages. So this one's for Inez Grant. $40,000.
Total expenditures.
Yep, total expenditures. $40,460 is what she's spent so far
For
for
a
this campaign.
solicitor general job. Now I can understand DA maybe, but for the solicitor,
She had a $40,000 loan, supposedly.
she probably loaned it to herself.
Yeah. There you go. Starting off.
Steve Siphon.
Yep, $1,000. Darla Eden. I don't, and see this is like another thing too. Is like, why is somebody in the government building also donating? I feel like that's
Yeah,
almost some kind of a conflict of interest. Like
it should
you guys
be.
work together. It's kind of weird. There's Josh Barrett again, $1,000. Ben Green.
Memorial Park Funeral Home, I assume.
These are some of the smaller ones.
Yeah, when I posted them online, I didn't post all the $200, $100 donations. I mean,
You got a 250 right here, but this is from another
Fox Channel, that's
law
defense
office.
attorneys.
Yeah.
That's David Fox and all those guys. Adam
That's
Hicks.
funny. Some of these occupations aren't listed here.
Yeah. Adam Hicks is a defense attorney. He used to be our corporate attorney when I had one of my businesses. Bill Park, $100. That ain't too bad. Scotty Ball, $100. Defense attorney.
Schwartz right here.
150. Yeah, she's eat up with a lot of $100 donations. 150. Some of them are like $95, and I guess the people donated $100 and there's a $5 transaction charge or something.
Oh, there it is.
Yep, Philip Wilhite Jr., Philip Senior's on there too. If I don't.
Yep, right underneath them.
Yep,
$1,500 total together. There's Cook Law Group right there. $2,500.
2,500. You know.
There's a couple of big ones right here. 500 a piece. Burned Bridges LLC, $3,300.
That's who owns the building she's in. I looked it up. I can't remember the guy's name. Something Connor, I believe. He owns the building on Green Street that her office is in.
Yeah,
There's another Darla Eden.
There's just a lot of little ones from a bunch of
There's
different.
Jerry Jackson, old senator.
From a lot of the local defense attorneys.
Count Cooley owns electronic sales. Arturo Curso.
I think he's an attorney.
Yeah, he's a local immigration attorney and defense attorney. He gave the Shiv almost, I believe, too. I'm not 100%, but I do believe he did.
Bagwell again.
And that's about it.
Yep, that's it.
And you can see her loan. I think it's on there, loan expenditure somewhere. So I think she loaned it to herself.
Herself, yep. Inez Grant.
Yeah. It was like Greg Poole. I think he loaned himself $100,000 in the District 9 race.
That's crazy, man. Like you're loaning yourself crazy amounts of money for a job that doesn't pay that much. Like
that's like, why she got $40,000 expenditure for a job that can't pay more than $120,000, you wouldn't think, for the solicitor.
Yeah.
And I don't know for sure what it pays, but I wouldn't think it was up 230, 240, 250 or so.
Oh, you got Gina Pilcher too. Let's look into
that's
that.
swamped all to hell.
Let's look at that.
I mean, you look at her money and you know everything she said at that nonpartisan debate is just 100% bunk.
That's not crazy. Nothing crazy off the top of my head, but I can see. Oh, it starts off with Mr. Elwood of 1, District 2 or District 3 or whatever it is by myself, but I'm gonna drop out just because of the hatred towards me. Okay. So you got Stan Hunt with 3275, and then I assume his wife for 3,000. So total of $6,275 coming out from the Hunts.
Then
So
you got
that starts off with a crazy amount from Swamp Connections, and then
exactly
Richard Higgins $1,500.
his campaign.
That's it. That's just them. That's
Just
all.
4 people. Now, I guess Betsy Adams is a family member.
Yeah.
Her
That's
friend.
it though. It's not a lot. It's nothing crazy. It's just the
No.
few people that
Now-
decided to vote for her or to donate to her. They're just
Well,
linked.
I don't think, but she'll get a lot more once the primary's over. And
Sure.
she's got
Sure.
till July 13th to get in her 1,600 signatures.
Sure. Yeah.
And if she gets her signatures,
She's gonna be running against potentially who? Tyler.
Tyler or Steve Gailey or
Yeah.
Shannon. Personally, I think it's going to come down to a runoff between Tyler and Steve. I just don't think Shannon's done enough, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I've talked to several who think it's going to be Shannon and Steve, and I've talked to several who thinks it may be Shannon and Tyler. You know, so I mean that tells you that this District 3 is pretty much a toss-up.
Yeah. I mean, as it should be. But like you said though, like the Swamp's got their feet in with Shannon. It seems like now, since Stan dropped out, and then even once, even if they lose in this primary, then they got a quote unquote independent runner on their behalf in Gina. So that'll be interesting come November, how that plays out potentially.
Yeah. And I got Mark Turner's finally pulled up.
Oh yeah, I forget about that. Let's dig into that one.
It's on that link that I sent you for Hall County?
Let me see.
Or I can pull it up, either one, it doesn't matter. It's whatever.
Hold on 1 second, let me see.
Oh, it said couldn't send. Let me send it again. It says it can't send. Let me send it to the chat in here.
Yeah. Send it to the chat here.
Chat. I just got all the Facebook crap in it, but it should take you there, hopefully. Let me pull it up. Let me do this here. Never mind. I'm stupid. I swear my brain's fried. They put me on those. I got psoriatic arthritis, and they put me on some of these cancer drugs. The inflammation, boy, and it messes with my body when I take them sometimes. There's the new one. Did you get it?
Yeah, I got it.
Good deal.
Let's see. All right. Friends of Mark Turner.
Yeah, that's his committee.
All right, let me switch this. All right, friends of Mark Turner, because I guess Mark Turner himself isn't running. It's his friends that are getting elected. $35,000 raise, $31,000 so far in expenditures. Very nice. So again, very small font. Just got to zoom into this 2,000%.
Yeah, I know.
So you got $500 from Debbie Davis, Cody Roberts, $500, Doris Mundy, $500. I can't even say that name, so I'm not going to try. International Refrigerated Structures, Vacuum Pump Systems, I assume $500. Cobb Investments, $500, and I wonder who that could be.
Yeah, I know. Who is it? Yeah, Cobb Investments.
I'm gonna assume that's Will Cobb
Or his family.
or his family. Yeah, but
'Cause I don't think it's Gene Cobb that don't, but
that's it. That's all you had for the, I guess, for this one. Interesting. So this is what for the most recent one, right? So let me look at year-end 2025 report, because surely there's more money than that.
yeah, no, he's got 35,000. I've had people message me saying y'all need to look into this. And did you pull up Friends of Mark Turner or Mark Turner?
No, this is the Friends of Mark Turner.
Yeah, now Mark Turner's got one himself on here too.
Oh, okay. I'll have to find it.
Yeah, Mark Turner's got. I didn't even get down to the Friends of Mark Turner.
Let's see. Yeah, Kent Henderson potentially running for
That may be an old one. He
is inactive. Yeah, it says inactive. That's funny.
Yeah, this one I pulled up's got a.
Yeah, see if you can share that, because I don't see another
Let me
one.
look.
All I
I'm
see is
looking at it
Friends
right
of Mark Turner.
now. Nice Cobb Investments. That's the same one.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know. I'm gonna have to tell those people to find out. I don't know where else to look. Well, try the January 31st report. That's probably his campaign contributions. January 31st, 2026 for Mark Turner. That's probably where it's at. It's under Friends of Mark Turner.
Yeah, January 31st. It's also pretty small, nothing crazy. Yeah, Jim Siphon, $2,000. That's it. That's the only one on there.
Huh. We're gonna have to do some more digging then, because the one I seen before had 30 something $1,000 worth of.
I think all in all, it's maybe a total of 35,000 year to date, or for this period or something like that, maybe for the entire election cycle.
Yeah, there's Jim Siphon. That was it.
Yep.
So, all right.
I mean, it's everything's like, as expected. I don't think anything's out of the ordinary or crazy.
Yeah. So now, did you pull up Lee Dare and Shiv? That's the last two that I think we mainly need to go over. Because the rest of the candidates, Tyler and Corey and Steve and Susan and they're exempt because they're planning on raising less than $2,500, or they're raising no money at all.
Mm-hmm. What I may need to get that from you again, that link to the financials.
Oh yeah, no problem. Which chat?
The original one.
Okay, Facebook.
Yeah, that's fine. Or here too. I mean, yeah.
I'll do it right here so you don't have to leave. I got it pulled up right here. All right. And I've got in a lot of heat in our group and then Holland Forums group, people bitching at me because when I posted Lee theirs, I made a comment that I think it should be illegal for defense attorneys to be able to donate to the district attorney.
Yeah.
And I didn't put that on the Shiv one too. And I specifically said any candidate running for district attorney. And everybody's bitching. All the Lee, their acolytes come out and just trashing me, saying that, why are you picking on Lee? Why didn't you say this about Shiv? I said, I said it about both of them. They said, well, Shiv's got defense attorney too. Blake Poole's his biggest contributor. I didn't say that they couldn't donate the.
Is this on here? Because I don't see local filings on here for Shiv
Yeah,
or
you
for
got to
Lee.
go to local on that page. Look at the top. That'll be under local filings.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on that page and it's broken down to Hall County, but it doesn't show up anything for Shiv or for Lee.
Oh yeah, no. I gotta send. Let me send the file. Let me send the files to you because you got to look up under their campaign that's under somewhere else. I'll send them on Facebook. It's you got to look under their I'll go to the first tab and then type in Shiv or tap in and there's Lee there. There's Shiv. All right, I sent them to you on Facebook. But you can go to that page and go to the first section, and it pulls up their committee for campaign for Lee Dara and for Shiv. I had to dig to find those.
All right, let's see. Let me pull it up. Let's go through Lee's first. So this is for Lee Dara, district attorney, incumbent, whatever you say that. Even the signature is just
yeah, it's
typed out. It's not really a real signature. So
no, that's a e-signature.
Yeah, easy auto pen right there.
Total expenditures. I just can't imagine spending that much for a local job.
Yeah, almost 21,000. All right, let's see. This sounds like a law firm, if I'm not mistaken.
It is. Ricky Rich. Don't you know he caught hell growing up? That cartoon Richie Rich.
A state of Georgia prosecutor, Wanda Vance.
Yeah. Employer, we got a law enforcement officer.
You got a dentist that donated quite a large amount.
Yeah. An attorney, Rachel. See, at least Lee disclosed what their occupation was.
Mm-hmm. That's another attorney right there.
And
Another.
a lot of these people on here are employees at the DA's office. See, there's Steve Siphon and Jim Siphon both. You got $5,000 from the Siphon family.
There's
Pam
count
again. Joe T. Wood.
Carol Daniel.
Yeah.
That's interesting though. Like a dentist and an oral surgeon making some pretty big contributions to these campaigns. Maybe they're just friends of Lee. Who knows? But it just seems kind of.
Oh, I know. Plus, he's been in that job for like 40 years. So,
yeah, it's just a little weird to me though to be donating that much. I mean, if it was like a couple $100 as like a friend of mine for a long time, but we're talking about a couple $1,000.
yeah.
It's not nothing.
One thing to throw out a couple of bones to him, but you look at a couple of grand Ted Cassert, attorney.
There's Fox Chandler and Hicks again.
Well, see, that's the whole attorneys group, and see, Ted Cassert works for Fox Chandler and Hicks. You know, and you got that John Cleveland from a milling company.
There's another law group from Cook Law Group.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big contribution.
I don't know how did they come up with 2387.25?
Who knows?
There's more law group.
A pharmacist.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, there's something weird over here.
Yeah.
There's something weird.
I don't know when my pharmacist won't donate.
There's another law firm contribution.
Yeah.
Lawyer.
He's got a list of them. There's William Bagwell again. He gives to everybody. Jeff Talley give to him. And you know, that just makes nothing against Jeff Talley. He's a great attorney, but he's in front of the DAs all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Roland Stroberg's an attorney. How much Roland give?
Who?
Roland Stroberg right there.
$100. Yeah. Attorney at law, $1,000. Hasty Pope LLC attorney, $477.
Rachel Bennett works for him. She's been in there trying to bust my balls. Scotty Ball, an attorney.
She's the assistant DA and she's donating.
Yeah. No, she's not the only one either.
Yeah, but that's just unethical, unprofessional in my opinion. Yeah. She probably stands to lose the most if she's coming to his defense so often and still not. Well, don't even live in Hall County. That's the other thing. You live in Brookhaven.
Yeah. You know, there's 4 or 5 others that donated too and have come to Lee's defense on Facebook, and they just don't want Shiv in there because they will actually have a boss.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of somebody, there's Brian Daniel again, $2,700. There's Ted Cassert again.
So she also donated $300 worth of wine, I guess, for a campaign event.
For an event. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's crazy. Seeing Brian Daniel let him use the Carol Daniel rooftop building, charged him $2,700.
Oh man, let's look into Shiv's. Shiv's actually has more pages on it too.
A lot of his is family, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
I think a lot of it is him personally.
Him and his family and friends, and he's got a couple of defense attorneys on there. I'm not going to lie to you.
Is Blake Pools like managing his campaign or something?
Yeah. He's his
Okay,
campaign manager.
I gotcha.
Shiv had like $18,000
$65,000 on this.
expenditures.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a lot of money for a job that doesn't pay that well.
Oh, I know.
Also,
See, there's Blake Pools. He give 3,300 to the general and the primary.
so yeah, he's like maxing out his donations right
Yeah.
there. Looks like his brother or some family member,
Yeah.
Alfredo.
There's Brittany Pools. She donated twice. Blake's wife, I assume. I assume a couple of those retired or his mom and dad, possibly.
You know, this is gonna come back and look really, really, really bad. And probably, you know, rightfully so when you got the one of the bigger defense attorneys running your campaign and then also donating almost $10,000
Right.
in the pools. Not only that, but then the whole fiasco going on with the sheriff too,
Exactly.
and who his representative is. And if that miraculously drops, or you know, some plea deal works out, or some BS like that, that's gonna kind of really tell, you know, what shit was running on
Yep.
potentially.
There's Steve Siphon. He give 2,300. I mean 3,300. He was giving a 500 to 1,000 everybody else for the most part.
Yeah, these are some really big whatchamacallit,
See, there's
donations.
Lydia Sartain. She was old DA.
There's Arturo again.
Yep, they give 1,000 to each. The Summer Law Group 250. Larry Payne, Capstone 250.
So he just spent a lot of money out of pocket for a
Yeah,
lot of the whatchamacallit.
that's why it costs so much, 32,000.
Yeah.
Here's expenditures. See, he's getting counseling, and so
Yeah. Well, the ad spend right there, that's probably for his YouTube ads, because I've seen those.
yeah,
Um,
YouTube's outrageous. See, there's the
mailers.
mailers were $22,000.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, those are not cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, between him and Lee, it really tells two different tales as to who's funding who, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You got I mean, to me, Shiv's doesn't look that great. You know, it looks more swampy than Lee's in my opinion, but that's just, I'm looking at like the total amount that you're spending potentially, and especially coming from one law group in Blake Poole, and then he's also your campaign manager too, which is a little weird to me.
Well, and he explained that by how good friends they are, and
Yeah.
I'm not holding that again. That's what and until we have reason to believe otherwise, I'm taking Shiv at his word.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that. At the same time, I'll side on the side of caution too, and just kind of not, you know, be all in. Obviously, I voted for Shiv. Kind of just because Lee's old, not to be ageist, but like, you're too old to be doing this job.
Well, he's 75 years old.
Yeah, and there's no other candidates running against them, so kind of lose, you know. Obviously, our conversation had a lot to do with that vote too. Just kind of getting a little bit of a report with Shiv and kind of listening to him talk and talking to him and whatnot. So
well, he comes
yeah,
across genuine and he really cares. I mean, you can tell,
yeah,
you know, and it's not just a job that he wants just to piss Lee off or to do anything. Because if he could have easily stayed on as his job as the ADA and ran against Lee while he was still in office, and he didn't.
right.
You know, so
All right, I think we covered everything for today, right?
yeah, for the most part, that is it. I know that we'll come back on next week. I was going to reach out to other candidates to come on and see if they wanted to be on the podcast, but I decided against that because is it really fair to get them on at the last minute when the others have been on, weeks before and won't have a final say to come in and say anything? So anybody
I don't think we really had anybody left to really do anyways that didn't already get an invite and didn't respond back. So
right. The only ones I didn't get to reach out to was Carla Baker and a couple of others. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but if her and Susan get into a run, and I didn't reach out to the other people in the that large board of education race because they didn't even show up to the events. Like Susan Taylor and Jim Anglin or whoever. But other than that, I think that's it. I was going to bring up something else that we need to talk about, but we'll get into that next week. But hopefully we'll be on. We'll try to get on next Wednesday, and we'll go over the election results and any surprises because we should know by Tuesday night. I don't think we're expecting any close races in this. It's going to decide who gets in a runoff if we do have runoffs. The only questionable thing I voted for Sam Cavillion over Greg Poole, and it wasn't nothing personal. I'd prefer to have Greg in there. But I'm just worried about Greg not pulling enough votes to keep Andrew Clyde from winning over 50% of the ballot to start with. You know what I'm saying? The more votes Poole gets, he's going to be running a distant third. That could give Clyde enough that's votes against Sam as well, and it could keep Andrew Clyde from getting under 50%.
Yeah.
I just want to get it back in the Gainesville area before we can worry about getting Sam out if he don't do a good job. So, but
I don't know that Sam's I haven't at least not from his social media posts and whatnot. I've seen him kind of like align with Trump on anything, or kind of using that as like a Trump conservative.
Yeah. He's not doing that, and I know Greg has on some things, but he hadn't on others. And
yeah, I mean, but all your signs say Trump conservative, so that's kind of enough for me to distance myself. And then obviously Trump endorsed Clyde. It's the only thing he's got that he's running on.
Clyde's done nothing for this district and doesn't plan on it, and lately since we've been busting his balls on Facebook, he's come out claiming he's going to vote against the FISA and the FISA laws where they can
unwarranted surveillance
and all that AI stuff where they can spy on you without a warrant.
Yeah.
But he didn't vote against the NDAA where they can illegally detain American citizens for no reason, for indefinitely.
Yeah.
He's
a yes man.
Yeah, he's a yes man, and we don't need yes men for any president. I don't care if it's Trump, Biden, or whoever. We need yes men for our constituents.
100%.
So, all right. Well, we appreciate everybody watching or listening, and if you can't get us on, I meant to say this before, if you can't get us on YouTube or the website, we're on all the major hubs. You can get the list of them off NorthGeorgiaAdvocate.org. I mean, we're on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcast, Amazon Podcast. I mean, there's like 10 or 11 different ones we're on. So just listen to us when you can, and we will be back next week after the election, and we'll break everything down.
Good.